Scorpio, this is your week ahead astrology forecast from Astrology Motivation by Born Without Boundaries. In this video, we review the major planetary aspects and transits and how they impact your natal sun and what that means for your bottom line. Now, in this video, all you really need to know is when your birth date is. But the most accurate readings always come when you know exactly where your natal sun is located in the zodiac sign of Scorpio. Now, most of my Scorpio tribe knows where their natal sun is located. But if you don't and you're just being introduced to astrology, this is kind of an interest, the best place to start is to grab your natal chart. I know it sounds like I'm building up to a commercial, but I am not. Because you can get your natal chart for free online in many different places. All you have to do is search free natal chart and many websites will pop up. You'll need your birth date, which most of you already have. You're both... pretty much, your birth time and your birth location. And with that information, you plug it in, and in a couple of seconds, you get a full natal chart, and that's where you can begin your journey into astrology, which is really the philosophy of how we, the person, the individual, is a microcosm of the universe itself. So I envy your beginning into this exploration of astrology. So for those of you who don't have time to do that, it's fine. All you need is to know when your birth date is. And for the rest of you who know where your natal sun is located already, we're going to start really big, really large and broad with those things that are going to impact everybody and that we all should be talking about. And then I will focus things down into Scorpio specific things. And then I will break things up into the decans. And the decans are groups of 10 degrees. And each zodiac sign has a total of 30 degrees. So each zodiac sign has 3 decans. And these decans help me to really pinpoint how your natal suns are being impacted and what is impacting them the most. So let's dive in. The big stuff. So Scorpio, this week we do have a new moon, and it is a new moon in Gemini that's happening on the 17th of June. It is a beautiful new moon. It's pretty much a status quo new moon. I don't want to say that because I'm a Cancerian. All new moons and full moons are wonderful, which means we have times to celebrate 2 times every month. Why not, right? And a new moon is, of course, a time to begin again, clear things out, and asked to invite new things in. And since this new moon is happening in Gemini, this is a great time to invite in new friendships, new conversations, and new education, new information. Now, one interesting thing is that while this happens, this new moon is square to Neptune and semi-square to Venus conjunct Mars, because Venus will be conjuncting Mars this week. It will start conjuncting Mars around the 16th, 17th. Some people may argue with me. They'll think, oh, Michelle, it's conjunct the whole week, because some astrologers go out to a 10-degree difference to still form the conjunction, but I like a tight conjunction. I really do, and that's around 5 degrees. So it'll finally get to that 5-degree point where they're like 5 degrees from each other on the 17th, and that's the day of the new moon, which is really interesting. This conjunction between Venus and Mars is a very virile conjunction. It's a very sensual conjunction. It's a very, not necessarily romantic, but definitely sexual convergence of the divine masculine and feminine during a new moon, which is really interesting, but it's semi-square to it. So there can be some frustrations that come up. There can be some irritations that come up with the new people that you're meeting, and just a sense to clear out what you don't want and really focus or learn by these frustrations what's important to you and what you do want to welcome into your life. Remember, squares and semi-squares teach us. They're always meant to teach us. So if they're pointing out things that are hardships or difficulties, those are definitely the things that you know to exclude. But everything is a lesson that helps lead you closer to your goal. Now, the square to Neptune is a little bit concerning just because squares to Neptune are very deceptive and very cloudy. So I would say if there's anything that has been clouded or fogged, especially when it comes to your relationships or your friendships or your communications with people you care about, this is definitely the new moon to clear out that air or to get information in that clarifies things. So it could be a particularly interesting new moon. I already mentioned that on the 17th or between the 16th and 17th, Venus and Mars actually conjunct. They become within a 5-degree conjunction. This happens in Leo, so it is a very loyal, very virile, very confident, charismatic, and romantic energy because, though most people don't know this, Leo rules romance. Leo, or the 5th house, is the house of romance, and Leo rules the 5th house. It is actually not Venus. Venus rules what you desire, what you crave, and what really gets you going. It is a value system thing because it also rules finances, but Leo itself is what rules romance. And so since Venus and Mars are conjuncting in Leo, this could be a pretty hot period coming up for the next week or so. Saturn retrogrades this week. Saturn's in retrograde, but it retrogrades back. Saturn goes into retrograde on the 17th. That's what it is. Now, this isn't a big thing to get up into arms about. It actually happens every single summer. Pluto goes into retrograde, Saturn goes into retrograde, Uranus will go into retrograde, Neptune will go into retrograde. They all go into retrograde, at least during my life on this earth, around the summertime. So it's at least the summertime in the northern hemisphere. So it's, for us, actually very convenient because it's saying, hey, take a break, slow down, don't move as fast. And you can really start to feel everything slowing down and not moving as fast. It's a really interesting phenomenon that happens, and let it happen. Don't be scared of it. Don't be worried about it. Ooh, my dog just slammed into the door. That scared me. I apologize. But it's a really interesting thing that happens. So this is just saying slow it down, especially when it comes to your career. This is definitely not a time to push. It's not a time to force anything. It's not a time to try to butt heads or do anything too legal-minded or anything. I mean, it's just a time to sort of let yourself take a bit of a break. Not to say you're full on vacation, right? But to say it's kind of the time to just allow things to slow down and see what that slowing down brings to you. Allow. I think that's the word I want to focus on. It's time to allow instead of take action. Just an FYI. Now, this week, another aspect that we should take note of is Saturn sextile Jupiter. I think this started at the end of last week. This is one of the most productive energies in astrology. This is when you can get anything done. So, and especially with Jupiter involved, it's all about expansion and growth. And I know I just told you, allow. Yeah, allow. It means that there are opportunities that are going to be coming to you that you don't have to fight for. So just have faith and allow, especially with your career things. Just FYI. Mercury this week is also sextile to Venus, which is also an exceptional time to communicate, at a time when you will communicate with elegance, with grace, with eloquence, a sense of people really want to hear you, and you can have some very sensual conversations as well, especially with Venus and Mars conjuncting in that new moon, asking us to have new conversations. This is an interesting week. Let's get into Scorpio specifics. So in the zodiac sign of Scorpio, we have the South Node. And the South Node is now at 2 degrees Scorpio because honestly, it's gearing up to slip into Libra, which will happen in July. So the South Node asks us to get comfortable with who we are, what we're born into this earth with, who we were from the past life, and the skill set that we bring into the earth with us. It asks us to get comfortable with it so that we can use it as we journey on toward the discomfort, the uncomfortable, not the bad, but the new, which is the North Node. So the North Node and South Node are not actually separate things. They're one thing. They're a path. They mark a path for your life's journey. And the South Node has been in Scorpio for the past year and a half right now. So we do have the South Node in Scorpio, but that's all we have in the zodiac sign of Scorpio. What we want to look for then is what are Pluto and Mars doing. Pluto and Mars we want to look at because they're your ruling dignitaries. Mars is your traditional ruler. It is what ruled Scorpio up until I think, what was it, 1939 when Pluto was discovered. So it still absolutely impacts the zodiac sign of Scorpio. So Pluto right now is your modern ruler. So we'll look for Pluto. Pluto's at 29 degrees Capricorn. Remember, it's in retrograde, and it retrograded back into Capricorn last week. It is sextile to Neptune, which is an extremely spiritual and holy change. Opportunities for spiritual growth, for psychic growth, for the growth of faith, actually, moving forward. Breakthroughs also in creativity as well, and artistry. And then we also have Pluto is square the nodes. So where Pluto always brings dynamic change, the fact that Pluto is square the nodes means almost like the polarities, the dynamics are absolutely changing on this planet. It's there to sort of bring us past that point of transition and bring us into the new. It is very focused with the new. It's a very metamorphic time. And then we look to Mars. So Mars this week is trying to Chiron and conjuncting Venus by the 16th. This is healing. This is catharsis. This could be literal physical healing since it involves Mars, and it involves Chiron, which is an Aries, which rules our body, our physical self. What the vehicles that we use on this planet is the physical self. That's Aries. So I think that it's really important what Mars is doing now, because it was in opposition to Pluto. It's where Venus was for a while. It was in opposition to Pluto. It was square to Jupiter. There was a lot of tumultuous things happening, and now there's this beautiful healing that's happening. So it's got that huge energy push, and now it's able to just sort of let things happen because it's on the right path. This is a really beautiful, beautiful energy. The opposition between Venus and Pluto is broken. It broke at the end of last week. So that's actually a good thing. But Venus is still square to Jupiter. So we can still, well, actually the square to Jupiter ends a little later on this week. I think it ends, it ends a little bit later on this week. So that's actually good. That's actually nice, because then things won't be so dramatic or excessive. Just an FYI. So let's go into Scorpio. Let's go into the decans. So in the zodiac sign of Scorpio, the South Node is at 2 degrees Scorpio. This brings it conjunct with the natal suns of the Scorpio ones. So Scorpio 1, if your natal sun is between 0 and 9 degrees Scorpio, you are a Scorpio 1. With birth dates, this translates to October Scorpios. So between the 22nd of October and the 31st of October, you would be Scorpio 1s. So, or estimate, that's an estimate, but it's around there. So conjunction with the South Node, especially if you're born like October 22nd, 23rd, especially you guys right on top of that South Node, getting comfortable with who you are, understanding who you are, and accepting your gifts and talents. You guys will be trying this full moon. So that is very cathartic and peaceful energy. Conversations that need to be had, or information or things that you can finally learn and understand that will help you heal around this new moon. Beautiful, wonderful time to welcome in information and conversation. If you're at the cusp, so especially the cusps are those of you who are born on the Libra cusp, so the 22nd, 23rd, you guys, you are in opposition to Jupiter, which can be pretty tough energy, because it makes you want to take everything to the extreme, and it makes everything kind of excessive for you. That won't last forever, but just know that there is this sort of supercharged, you're kind of on turbo all the time, and that can be quite frustrating sometimes, especially when sleep is concerned. You are, however, trying to Saturn as well. So for the next year, this is a great time to really harmonize and balance out work-life balance and your career and where you are in your career, and really getting along and using the law and using all the authority, the established authority, to actually being in sync with it, to actually working out for you. So that could be something, one less fight you have to fight, right? For the next year, this is especially great for career and making amends or harmonizing with parents or other authority figures, or taking care of any legal issues. And then we have a quincunx to Neptune, which could be activated by this new moon, which is square to Neptune. Any kind of frustrating delusions or deceptions that have been going on in your brain are really going to be challenged around that new moon. But since it's trine to your natal suns, I think that, and this is happening on the 17th, remember, I think what that means is that even though the news may be hard for you to hear, the information might be shocking at first, it actually will make things make a lot of sense. So Scorpio 2s, this is if your natal sun is between 10 and 19 degrees Scorpio. This usually translates to the first 10 days of November. So say the 1st to the 10th of November. I think that's the first 10, 11 days of November. Scorpio 2s. Your natal suns have been in a long-term quincunx to Chiron, which means that aches and pains or injuries could really be frustrating at your situation. It's not the end of the world, but certainly this is something that you've been dealing with. Since Chiron is almost, at this point, it's at 19 degrees Aries, it's almost slipping into the third decan. I think it's really only majorly impacting those of you born toward the 9th or 10th of October will really feel this quincunx. Those of you who were born toward the beginning of, not October, November, are, it's going to be fading away now because Chiron has moved on so much. You're square to the Venus-Mars conjunction, so there could be a lot of butting heads or challenging conversations that end up coming up this week, especially with your romantic relationships or with your flirtations that don't go so well. It's not the best time to date. It's not the best time to try to be aggressive. It's not going to be the greatest time for sensuality or sexuality. And not to say that it's cursed. It's just that anything around that will bring up challenges and will kind of make you have to face certain aspects, maybe even physical dynamics of yourself that maybe may be challenging but could help teach you things. There's always an upside to a square, and that is the lessons that come from it. Which means that you are also square to Mars and square to Venus. But if your birthdays were at the 1st or the 2nd of November, you're going to be square to Venus all week long. But those of you, most of the rest of you, you'll be square to Venus a little bit later in the week. What does this mean in particular? Anytime you're square to Venus, like, don't change your hairdo, don't change any aesthetics in your life. If you're single, stay single. Don't try to really date, and don't sign any major financial contracts. Don't make any big purchases, because this is not a great time to do that when your natal sun is square to Venus. It only lasts a week, so it's just this for this week that you have to hold off and really be careful with overspending as well. And that's it. But just take note of that, FYI. And your natal sun square Mars, injuries are more likely, and not necessarily inevitable, but more likely. And you will be more apt to fight and be aggressive, especially defensively aggressive. So just be very aware of that. And a good thing to do when your natal sun is square Mars is to count to 10 before you respond, because you want to respond impulsively. Just count to 10, take a breath, and do anything to really ground yourself and really settle yourself. Finding peace is really important this week for you. Let's move on to Scorpio 3s. So Scorpio 3s, if your natal sun is between 20 and 29 degrees Scorpio, you are Scorpio 3. This would correlate to birthdays between, say, the 11th and the 21st of November. Definitely Sagittarius cusps. Your natal suns are in opposition to Uranus, which could mean unexpected surprises for the next couple of years, curveballs that get thrown at you, or feeling like you're always getting thrown curveballs. Be really interesting. And you're also sextile to Pluto. Yes, even though it retrograded back into Capricorn, though I think that this is more or less gonna drop off a little bit, ease up for those of you who are born toward the 11th or 12th. But for those of you who are definitely Sagittarius cusps, and most of the rest of you, you still maintain that sextile to Pluto, which means that there are dynamic changes and opportunities coming to change yourself, change your life for good over the next couple of years. So this is these are opportunities for metamorphosis in the areas of your life that really need growth and expansion. So it's actually a blessing. And then you are long-term trine to Neptune, which means creativity, which means embrace your creativity, find a conduit for your creativity, allow it to harmonize and help your life. Whatever that creativity is, it's also psychic energy being very fine-tuned. So if you feel like even more in tune, psychic dreams, prophetic dreams, psychic experiences can absolutely happen during a trine to Neptune. Use it to help fuel your creativity. Find a creative conduit for it. It's always the healthiest way to deal with anything Neptune. And then we have this new moon in Gemini. Your natal suns will be quincunx too, which means it could be some frustrating energy. It could be some frustrating conversations or some frustrating information that ends up coming up, especially with friends, or any kind of new information that comes up with relationships. Just an FYI, frustrating, agitating, irritating, or everybody, could just be that everybody starts to come to you for advice. And as nice as that could be, sometimes it gets irritating. So just an FYI. I love you guys, and I hope you have a tremendously wonderful week. Feel free to leave your comments below to let everybody know how this is impacting you. And come on over to Born Without Boundaries to hear your week ahead tarot card reading. Oh, before you go, please remember to subscribe to the channel and ring that notification bell so you know when I upload your favorite content here on Astrology Motivation. We're trying to grow. The goal is to have 10,000 subscribers here by the end of summer. And considering summer hasn't even begun yet, I think we can do it. I love you guys, and I'll talk to you next week. Bye, Scorpio.